Welcome back to CBS Sports HQ. Pete Prisco's power rankings are out. Buffalo start and end the season at the top, the regular season. No one good enough to knock them off the top rung. Chiefs, the number one seed in the AFC, they're at 2. Brock Purdy fairy tale continues. Niners at 3, ahead of the number one seed in the NFC, the Eagles. The Bengals rounding out the top 5. Buccaneers at 14, as you see there on the right. The division winner, the lowest of all the playoff teams. All right, so let's get into the power rankings with the man himself, Pete Prisco, and NFL analyst Charles Davis hopping on to join us. Pete, how slim are the margins between Buffalo at 1 and the actual number one seed in the AFC, Kansas City at 2?
Well, they're slim, but Buffalo beat them. I mean, that's why I think they earned the right to have the number one seed. They beat them. And, I know they didn't play that game when the tragedy happened with DeMar Hamlin, but they still beat them. So that's why they're the best team, at least in my mind. I picked them all year. They were 1 to start the season. I picked them to win the Super Bowl, and I'm not getting off of that. I'm picking the Buffalo Bills.
Charles, do you agree with them being the number one seed, or do you think Kansas City maybe should have slid into that spot?
Well, we know that on the, in the actual playoffs, Kansas City will be the number one seed. Pete made mention of Buffalo not getting that opportunity to solidify that because of the game with Cincinnati, and understandably so, being canceled and being a no contest. But I like Pete's reasoning. Head to head, Buffalo went to Kansas City and beat them. So in a power ratings, where the reason we're not talking about it in total is because of a no contest, I think Pete's reasoning is spot on. It's the old, when you play the champ and you beat them, you're the champ. They went to Kansas City, got it done, and their records are right there next to each other. It makes perfect sense to me. Plus the way Buffalo is playing on defense, I really like them as the number one team in the AFC right now.
Certainly not, an argument can be made for both teams, but certainly having the Bills on top makes complete sense based on Pete's reasoning, as mentioned, from pillar to post to really going all season long. Eagles, though, have been the top team, one of the top teams in the NFL, arguably maybe number 2, number 1, depending on how you want to fashion it out. But you have them below Brock Purdy and the San Francisco 49ers. Can you explain that?
Well, I just think when you look at, they had lost a couple games, obviously, and when you look at them, I don't think they were playing as well at the end of the year, whereas the 49ers and Brock Purdy were playing really well. I know they had the one game against the Raiders where they had to win it late, and that was good for Brock Purdy, by the way. We went through a bunch of games, and he didn't have to come from behind. He had to come from behind in that game. He's going to have to do that in the postseason. That's where you're going to make your bones. But this team is stacked, and I think they're really loaded at every spot across the board. And now they get Samuel back, and they have so many weapons on offense, which is why I put them ahead of them. That doesn't mean I'm picking them to win the Super Bowl, because you still have to go to Philadelphia. To get to the Super Bowl, you still have to go to Philadelphia. But I think they're the better team, and the Eagles might end up winning it.
Yeah, and I just saw that Eagles team play last Sunday, and they were playing to lock down the number one seed to win the NFC East. They had to play their starters. They were happy to get Jalen Hurts back so he could get some work in before they hopefully won and got an open week, but before they played in the playoffs, and they were able to accomplish that. I don't think he was 100%, but he was good enough to be able to play in that game, and come playoff time, he'll play differently because they did everything possible to not have him as part of their run game, which they've had him do throughout the season. But in Pete's power rankings, I concur. San Francisco's playing better right now. Now, does that hold up come playoff time, that old momentum thing? I think we've all seen it every which way, haven't we, Pete? Teams with momentum have gone in and done well. We've seen teams that look like they're staggering to the finish. I remember the year that the Colts, Indianapolis, won the Super Bowl with Peyton Manning. Wasn't it, Pete, like week 14, 15, that Jacksonville put 377 yards on them on the ground and beat the heck out of them? And people were saying, oh, Lord, how is Indianapolis going to get through the playoffs? And then Bob Sanders came back and helped solidify things, and they went through. So you just never know how it's going to go. But I am totally with Pete on this one. San Francisco is a team on the NFC side right now. If you're asking me who I don't want to play, and I don't care where, it's the 49ers. They have the type of team that travels. They can go in any environment, dome, outdoors, grass, it does not matter, and play with anyone, including going to Philadelphia.
And as you said, they're getting healthy, which makes them even more dangerous. The team that they're going to face in the wild card round, the Seattle Seahawks, have to give them a little bit of love, because big move for them over the course of the season. Pete, you had them starting the season at 31, and then they bump all the way up. Are you a believer in Geno Smith?
I'm a believer in Pete Carroll and John Schneider. They were right. I mean, they got rid of Russell Wilson, and you look at what's happened. Geno Smith played better than Russell Wilson this year, much better. So when you look at it from that standpoint, I think you give big props to John Schneider and Pete Carroll for what they did with that team. And Geno Smith played well. Let's give him credit. And I don't think they're going to beat the 49ers this week, but to get to this point, they made me look bad. And there were other teams in this power rankings that made me, but I always do that when I go back to my first power rankings with my last and I look at them. I had the Saints up in the high in the top 10. I had the Rams in the top 10. I mean, I can make fun of myself because I missed badly on the Seattle Seahawks. Kudos to Pete Carroll. Kudos to John Schneider.
Hey, Pete, you and I could both share a stage at the Har Har Hut or the Chuckle House and have people heckle us, because I would have been there with you with a number of the teams you had high that didn't finish high. But I will say this. I have never made the mistake with Seattle. That's the one place where I have not done it. You remember when the Legion of Boom cleared out, everybody said, oh, this is a disaster of a team. They went 10-6 that year, made the playoffs. I think they lost at Dallas on the road, but everybody said they'd be a 3-4 win team. I picked them to be a playoff team. I even had a national writer call me and go, are you sure you want to go with that? Yeah, I was sure then, and I was sure this year as well that, hey, don't count out the Seattle team. This is the type of team Pete Carroll loves to coach. The team with no expectations. He finally has a bunch of guys just staring at him and saying, tell us what to do, coach. We're there for it. And they went out and responded accordingly. He and John Schneider, I'd never make that mistake with them. Other teams, oh yeah, I'm right there with you, Pete. I made a lot of mistakes along the way. And I think the New Orleans one, you and I were arm in arm on that one. So I was right there with you.
Hey, there were a lot of mistakes over the course of the year, the way things have gone. And that's what we love. That's what we love the most about it. And you were saying they won't be the 49ers. I don't know. Nobody cares what I think. I got a funny feeling. But anyways, moving along.
Jeremy, let that feeling go. Let it go.
I would let that go too.
And I'm a Niners fan, so I mean, come on.
I would let that go.
Let it go.
Just that little thing. Okay, we've said it before, and I'll say it again. You never underestimate the GOAT. But Pete, you're a realist. You have Tampa Bay as the lowest of the playoff seeds.
Yeah, and all year, and I think Charles and myself have said this all year long, every time we've done this segment, okay, this could be the week that Tom Brady looks like Tom Brady. Oh, this could be the week Tom Brady looks like Tom Brady. And it rarely happened all year long, and I think that's why we're sitting here, and I have a little skepticism. It's not about him as much as it is about the offensive line. Can they protect him? They didn't protect him all year long. They've had a ton of injuries on that offensive line. It's impacted the way he plays. So, yeah, I sit here and I say, oh, we're going to see Tom Brady in the playoffs. This is an opportunity for him to get right and get this team going. But can they protect him? And remember, the one kryptonite, it's the kryptonite for all quarterbacks, but for him especially in the postseason. You go back to those Giants games he lost, what'd they do? Interior pressure. Hit him. He didn't like it. Every time he lost in the postseason, the Jets back in the day, he got hit, and I'm worried that he's going to get hit in the postseason. I don't like that team right now. I love Brady, but I don't like the makeup of that team.
So what you're saying, Pete, is Micah Parsons, he won't just be coming off the edge. He's going to loop from the linebacker spot, come up the middle. Seattle, wasn't it is it Cliff Averill who got hurt in the Super Bowl?
Yes.
And he was providing so much pressure in that game up the middle, and he went out and it changed the complexion, and Tom was able to step up and throw. Look, that's not the be-all, end-all, because everyone's had the same formula, and very rarely has it worked with Tom Brady. But if you're playing Bucko Bruce right now, and you're playing that Buccaneer and that Pirate and the eye patch and the whole deal, I'm the parrot on your shoulder, and I was right there with you. This is going to be the week Tom Brady's going to look like Tom Brady. I've said it throughout. We both have. Here's the deal this time. Is Vita Vea playing for Tampa Bay? Because if he's playing and plugging up the run game and making it difficult for Dallas, things change for Tampa. Because Tom Brady's playing better down the stretch. He is. He's got all the receivers available. The offensive line is scary because it's not close to what they normally have. But if they can tamp down the Dallas run game, Dak Prescott's thrown a pick, I believe, in 7 straight games, including a pick 6 against Washington. This thing could get awfully interesting in Tampa. And how many times have we seen teams win a division with a 500 or less record and win that first playoff game? That record is way better than what anyone would ever think, including beast mode game when they beat the defending Super Bowl champs, New Orleans up in Seattle. Those teams often win. I wouldn't bet against Tampa on this one.
Well, a little added motivation for Tom. I mean, it's not used to being a playoff underdog, but they are 3-point underdogs to Dallas. That game coming up on Monday night to finish off the wild card round. Charles Davis, Pete Prisco discussing Pete's final power rankings, which you can see over on CBSSports.com. For one last look at the final week of the regular season and discussion of the postseason to come, be sure you're checking out Inside the NFL. James Brown and his team of former players and Hall of Famers on the clock tonight, breaking everything down. A new episode of Inside the NFL airs tonight exclusively on Paramount+.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.